What's up guys, this is my than the original video. So I've got a sample gameplay recording from Unravel 2 at night and at settings. From settings, choose advanced. You will see a bunch of settings here. In the video settings, there is an option to change color range. Make sure to change it from full to limited. If you are using an older version of OBS, you will find the option limited is named partial instead. So choose partial in that case. After that, you click apply, then click OK. Now I'm showing you a sample recording of the same place in the game with the color range set to limited. Here we go. You can notice the difference now. Color details are better. The recording is the same as the actual gameplay and not too dark.
For work, play, and every day, upgrade with over 1 million parts and accessories and bring your truck to life. Real truck.
Hey guys, this is just a quick video. I was struggling with OBS, as you can see right now. In Rocket League, my colors are really dark. And you probably see this in yours too. And it took me a bunch of forums to figure this out, but the way to fix this is if we go to OBS, assuming you guys can see that, just go to your source property, hit properties. You'll see there's this allow transparency. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably really meta, but there's this allow transparency option. Just like uncheck that and boom, it's fixed. And we can go back to this, and you can see better. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.
To record in 4K resolution, 2160p is another name for it, go to the Settings tab in OBS Studio. I'm going to walk you through all the best settings that you need, including hardware and coding, all those advanced things you need to know to do this very intensive recording task. Awesome. Your first step here in the Settings tab is going to be video. Over here on the left-hand side, this is where we will select your resolution and your frame rate for your project. I already have it entered here, but you will need to manually enter this yourself and copy it. 3840 by 2160 is your resolution you'll need to do 4K. And so here within the base canvas resolution, by entering that 4K resolution there, it makes your canvas down here where you have your content be 4K resolution. So what you see here in your canvas, with me waving here, hi, will actually be what your recording looks like essentially. I recommend matching the canvas with the output, which is located right here. You're going to copy the 3840 by 2160 and paste it right here. So your canvas is 4K and your recording is now 4K by doing that. For your downscale filter, I recommend bumping this up to 36 samples because your computer is probably very powerful, so you will not have issues doing that. And you will have two different frame rate values that you can choose from. So 30 FPS is the one that I'm using right now to do this recording, but if you are planning on doing something that requires a lot of motion, like gameplay, for example, or a really high quality, high motion video trailer or video playback, you'll want to bump that up to 60 frames per second. For most of you, 30 will be totally sufficient, and that's what we use for the demo today, but I will tell you later on and show you what bitrate you need if you're doing a 60 frames per second recording. Your next stop is to hit apply down here, but do not yet hit OK. We've got a few other things we need to do first. Go to the audio tab as your next stop. For your sample rate, select the sample rate that your audio device that you're capturing on likes. If you don't know what it is, Google it. Google the name of your audio device and type sample rate. It will likely be 44.1 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz minus 48. I recommend disabling every single audio device by default right here. It'll enable your microphone and desktop audio by default. Disable that. You do not want that stuff popping up down here on accident or without you setting it up properly in your audio mixer. I recommend adding every single audio device manually in OBS Studio. Link in the description below to my tutorials playlist on how to set those up manually. If you don't do this, you may be confused when you have random audio popping into your recording you did not put there. Hit apply, but do not yet hit OK. Our next stop is going to be the Output tab. This is where the majority of the settings are located for 4K recordings. By default, this tab will be looking like this. It'll be on Simple mode. You don't really want to use Simple mode when you're doing 4K recording. You want to go into the Advanced mode that unlocks all of the best settings for 4K. We're not doing streaming today, so skip the streaming tab today. I'll have a separate tutorial on that. Recording tab is actually our first stop right here. Click the Recording tab. Once you arrive here, you'll want to select a recording path that is a custom folder that you've made by hitting Browse, and go find a storage drive on your computer if you have one, or find a drive on your computer that's a terabyte or bigger is my recommendation. Create a folder on that drive, and then select that folder to drop all your recordings into. These are going to be big recordings, very big recordings. For your recording format, I highly recommend MP4. It is the most compatible and most universal recording format that can be used by virtually every app and program on Earth. For audio track, I recommend only checking audio track 1 for now, unless you have some sort of advanced configuration. Here is the most important thing for you to pay attention to in this video, your encoder. You're doing a 4K recording. That means that you are going to use a massive load on your CPU, your processor, your Intel or AMD processor, if you decide to use the X264 encoder, which is the standard encoder that you would normally use. I do not recommend using the X264 encoder when you're attempting 4K recordings. I recommend instead doing the NVIDIA NVENC encoder. If you do not have that available, it's probably because you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card. I recommend getting one if you don't have one and you're trying to do 4K recordings. That encoder will take the load off of your processor. And I'm going to demonstrate this later on in this tutorial to show you the difference between using X264, which will gobble up 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% potentially of your processor and your computer, tanking your computer, versus using the NVIDIA encoder, which will use almost none of your CPU as you're doing these recordings. If you'd like a recommended computer that can handle this, just out the box, you just pick it up and it just works. This is my recommended computer. I've set up multi-million-dollar webinars I've run on this computer. It is a 4K creator laptop that has all of the hardware you need under $2,000. It's got an RTX 2060 graphics card, 32 gigabytes of RAM, the fastest processor available in any laptop on Earth, and most importantly, a 4K monitor built in. This under $2,000. This machine is amazing. If you try to get a desktop PC with a 4K monitor and a keyboard and a mouse with all of these specs, you'd be paying about the same price or more unless you built it from scratch yourself. This also has a 1 terabyte storage drive built in, SSD, which is big enough to handle these giant 4K recordings. All right, link in the description below to this machine. If you want my recommended machine for recording in 4K, if you just want to buy something that just works today, link below to that. Okay, so now that you have the hardware you need to use the NVIDIA encoder, which is my recommended method, you'll need to select your rate control. I highly recommend using constant bit rate if you want to keep your quality consistent. If you want to, you can select VBR instead of CBR, and that's a variable bit rate. A variable bit rate will go up and down and up and down depending on what's happening on the screen, and you will have fuzziness and pixelation from time to time. For most cases, I recommend constant bit rate. Since you're doing 4K, you're probably doing this because you want to maximize your quality, right? Great. Here comes your recommended bit rates. They're gigantic for 4K video, okay? So the minimum bit rate that I would recommend for doing 4K recordings at 30 frames per second, which is what our project currently is, you're going to bump this up to 45,000 kbps. That means you're going to be using 45 megabytes every single second you're recording. That's pretty crazy. All right, if your project is 60 frames per second instead of 30, your bit rate should be up closer to 68,000 kbps. That is you using 60 megabytes every second you're recording. That is going to be a gigantic recording, by the way. All right, that bit rate is very high, and that bit rate is based on YouTube's recommendations for uploads at these particular bit rates and frame rates. Those are your minimums, in my opinion, that I would recommend recording at. You can bump it up from there if you want, but those are the minimums that I recommend using. I'm going to bump mine back down to the minimum for 30 frames per second that I would recommend, which is 45,000 kbps. Leave your keyframe interval at 0, and for your preset, y'all are going for quality, aren't you? So bump that up to max quality. Great. I do not recommend using look ahead in most cases, but if you want to use look ahead, then go ahead and check this box and then bump.
Hey guys, this is just a quick video. I was struggling